Your thoughts are not harmless. They're either building your life or quietly breaking it. Let that sink in. Most people don't realize this, but the greatest battle we fight each day happens silently inside our own mind. It's not out there in the world. It's in the stories we tell ourselves, in the quiet voice that says, "You're not good enough. You'll fail again. Why even try?" And we start to believe it not because it's true, but because we've never been taught to question it. This video isn't about quick fixes. It's not about positive thinking or empty affirmations. It's about something far more powerful and ancient. It's about learning to see your thoughts clearly, to challenge them fiercely, and to reclaim your inner authority. The Stoics knew that if you don't govern your mind, it will govern you. Marcus Aurelius battled his own doubts. Epictetus faced hardship with nothing but his reason. And yet they chose clarity over chaos. They chose strength over fear. And today, so can you. In the next few minutes, we're going to explore 9 essential Stoic insights that will help you break the cycle of overthinking, quiet the voice of fear, replace negative self-talk with grounded awareness, and reshape your inner world from the inside out. So if you've ever felt like your mind was working against you, if you're tired of the noise, the doubt, the inner war, this is your call to stillness, to clarity, to strength. Let's begin. Part 1. Fear as the fuel of negative thinking. Fear is not your enemy. It's not a flaw. It's nature's way of protecting you. But when left unattended, when allowed to roam wild in the corners of your mind, fear becomes something else. It morphs into overthinking, into anxiety, into endless mental rehearsals of everything that might go wrong. And that's when fear stops protecting you and starts controlling you. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't pretend to be fearless. They weren't machines. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, admitted to being afraid of illness, betrayal, death, failure. But he never let fear become his master. Instead, the Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. What does that mean? It means you face fear by imagining the worst-case scenario, on purpose. You don't run from fear. You walk toward it. You hold it up to the light and ask, if this happens, would I survive? Would I still have the power to choose how I respond? Because the truth is, fear multiplies in the dark. But once you shine the light of reason on it, it shrinks. Let me give you an example. Say you're afraid of failing at a new job or being rejected in a relationship. So your mind starts to spiral. What if I embarrass myself? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not enough? But if you're a Stoic, you stop right there. You ask, okay, what if I do fail? What if they do reject me? Then what? You walk through the scenario calmly. You visualize it. You feel the sting. And then you realize you're still standing. You're still you. You're still in control of your character. That's the Stoic way. See, fear feeds negative thinking because it tells you the unknown is dangerous. But the Stoics would argue the unknown is simply unlived. It's not dangerous unless you fill it with imagined disasters. Marcus Aurelius said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And fear. Fear is often nothing more than a poor estimate of your own strength. So the next time you catch your mind spiraling, crafting disaster, where there is only silence, pause. Ask yourself, What am I really afraid of? Then go one step further. If that happens, can I endure it? Chances are you can. And when you realize that fear loses its fuel, it can no longer drive your thoughts, because now you are back in the driver's seat. Part 2. Negative self-talk, the saboteur within. Most people lose long before the battle even begins, not because they're weak, not because they lack talent, but because they've already been defeated by a voice no one else hears. You know the one I mean. That quiet whisper that says, "You're not ready. You always screw it up. Who are you kidding, thinking you could do this?" That voice doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It's been rehearsing its lines inside your head for years, sometimes decades. And because it sounds like you believe it. But I want to tell you something man to man. That voice isn't you. It's an echo. A leftover recording from moments when someone made you feel small. Maybe a parent, a teacher, a relationship. Or maybe it's you stuck in a story that no longer serves you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Let that sink in. Because the moment you realize the enemy is not out there, the moment you see it's inside your own mind, that's the moment you take your power back. The Stoics didn't deny inner struggle. They just refused to be ruled by it. Negative self-talk is a saboteur. It doesn't break in through the front door. It lives in the attic of your mind, quietly undoing your courage from within. But here's what a Stoic does. He listens. He observes the thought. And then he asks, is this true? Is this useful? Or is this just fear in disguise? Let me give you a real example. I worked with a man in his 40s who had every qualification for leadership, but he wouldn't step up. Why? Because every time an opportunity came, his mind whispered, "You're not good with people. You'll mess this up like before." And he believed it, until one day he wrote the voice down in his journal. Just wrote the sentence out like this: "You're not good enough." Then he looked at it and said, "Who told me this first?" Turned out it wasn't even his voice. It was a leftover script from childhood. That's the power of awareness. That's the beginning of Stoic freedom. You don't fight the voice with noise. You don't need a pep talk. You respond with clarity. You replace it with, "Maybe I've failed before, but I'm not that man anymore. I don't need to be perfect. I need to be present. I choose courage, not comfort." Each time you do this, you're not just challenging a thought, you're rewriting your identity. And remember, your thoughts are seeds. If you let negative ones grow, they'll take over your life. But if you plant new ones, honest, rational, grounded in virtue, then you begin to build a mind that no longer sabotages, but supports you. So the next time you hear that quiet voice trying to cut you down, pause. Don't argue with it. Just say, "I hear you, but I no longer obey you." That's Stoic power. Part 3. Your thoughts are not truth. Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself spiraling into anxiety, only to realize later that nothing actually happened? You imagined she was upset. You assumed the meeting went poorly. You thought everyone was judging you. But none of it was real. It just felt real. That my friend is the prison of unchallenged thought. Epictetus, one of the wisest Stoics, once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." Read that again. He didn't say we suffer because of what happens. He said we suffer because of how we interpret what happens. Let that sink in. Because here's the truth. Your thoughts are not facts. They're suggestions. Some are accurate. Some are helpful. But many are just distortions, wearing the mask of truth. We tend to forget this. We believe every thought that pops into our head like it's gospel. She didn't text back. I must have said something wrong. My boss didn't smile. I'm probably on the chopping block. This isn't working out. I'm a failure. Thoughts like these sneak in quietly, and if we don't catch them, they start to run the show. Before long, you're reacting to a world that doesn't even exist, one you invented in your own mind. Here's what the Stoics teach us. Freedom begins the moment you question the story. Let me give you something practical, something I use myself. Whenever I feel the emotional temperature rising, anger, fear, shame, I ask one question. What else could be true? Maybe she didn't text back because she's busy, not because she's rejecting you. Maybe that silence in the meeting wasn't judgment. Maybe people were just thinking. Maybe the way you feel isn't because life is broken, but because your mind has been rehearsing the worst. Marcus Aurelius would pause, look inward, and write, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." That's not poetry, that's psychology. Your thoughts shape your emotions, your decisions, your actions. But here's the liberating news. You don't have to believe every single one. You can step back. You can say, "This is just a thought, not a fact." You can choose to reinterpret, to reframe, to rebuild the lens through which you view life. And when you do, you stop being a prisoner of your emotions. You stop reacting to shadows, and you start living with clarity. You don't need a perfect life. You just need a truthful perspective. So the next time your mind starts spinning stories, pause. Take a breath. Ask, is this true? Or is this just the oldest lie I never stopped telling myself? That's how a Stoic lives. Firm, not frantic. Rooted in reality, not reaction. Part 4. Your environment shapes your mind. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. You can read all the right books. Practice meditation journal like Marcus Aurelius himself. But if you spend your time around negativity, sooner or later it seeps in. Because just like lungs breathe in air, your mind breathes in your environment. And if the air is toxic, so is the thinking. I've worked with men who were disciplined, thoughtful, trying to grow. But every time they took one step forward, their surroundings dragged them 2 steps back. They kept hanging around people who mocked growth, watched media that thrived on outrage, lived in spaces that whispered chaos instead of calm. Eventually, they weren't just around that noise. They became it. Seneca once said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." It sounds simple, but it's not always easy. Because sometimes the ones dragging you down are the people you've known for years. Friends, co-workers, even family. But here's the Stoic truth. You are responsible for the influences you allow to shape you. That doesn't mean you need to cut everyone out or live in a cave, but it does mean you must become selective. If someone constantly complains, ridicules your growth, or gossips, they're feeding your mind garbage. And what we consume, we eventually reflect. Now think bigger. What kind of content are you watching? What voices are speaking into your ears every day? Social media, the news, podcasts, group chats. Are they reminding you of your power or your problems? A Stoic doesn't just guard his time, he guards his mind. That might mean creating more space for silence, spending time in nature instead of scrolling, having coffee with someone who challenges your thinking instead of just echoing your fears, decluttering your space so it reflects order, not confusion. Because your environment isn't just where you are, it's who you're becoming. Marcus Aurelius didn't sit on a mountain to find peace. He found it in the chaos of war, the noise of Rome, because he learned how to shape his inner space, even when the outer world was turbulent. But here's the key: he still protected his influences. He wrote, reflected, chose his circle with care. He knew that your surroundings either reinforce your values or erode them. So ask yourself today, who's speaking into your life? What spaces are shaping your mind? And more importantly, are they making you wiser, stronger, or just more distracted? You want clarity. Start by cleaning the lens you're looking through. That lens is your environment. Part 5: Comparison is the enemy of contentment. Let me ask you something simple but honest. When was the last time you felt truly content and then lost it the moment you saw someone else's life online? It's strange, isn't it? 1 minute you're feeling grateful, sipping your coffee, proud of the quiet progress you've made, and then scroll. Someone just got promoted. Someone just bought a house. Someone just took a trip to Greece with a six-pack and a perfect smile. And suddenly, your peace disappears. That's the trap. Comparison. The Stoics knew it well. Long before Instagram, long before filters, even long before photography, humans have been measuring themselves against others. But Marcus Aurelius didn't need a smartphone to understand this danger. He wrote, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you. But sanity means tying it to your own actions. You see, contentment, real contentment, doesn't come from being ahead of others. It comes from being aligned with yourself. Yet our culture doesn't teach us that. It teaches us to compare resumes, bank accounts, bodies, even relationships. And if you're not careful, you'll start running a race you were never meant to run. I've seen strong men become hollow, chasing someone else's path. I've seen good fathers feel like failures because someone else vacations more often. I've seen disciplined men give up because they didn't get results as fast as the guy next door. But let me remind you of a Stoic truth. The only comparison that matters is who you were yesterday versus who you are today. The Stoic path is deeply personal. It's not about being better than him. It's about being better than before. And sometimes that means ignoring the noise, putting your head down, doing the reps, writing the journal entry, saying no to the things that used to control you. Because no one else knows the weight you're carrying. No one else knows how far you've come. And no one else has to live with the consequences of your choices but you. So stop measuring your life by someone else's highlight reel. Instead, ask yourself, am I acting with courage today? Am I choosing wisdom over impulse? Did I show up with integrity even when no one was watching? If the answer is yes, then you're already winning. And if the answer is no, then good. Because now you know exactly where to begin again with yourself. Part 6: The power of daily reflection. Let me share with you one of the quietest, most overlooked Stoic practices, yet also one of the most powerful. Reflection. Every night before closing his eyes, Marcus Aurelius would take to his journal. Not to impress, not to publish, but to hold himself accountable. He would ask simple, piercing questions. What did I do today? Where did I fall short? What can I do better tomorrow? Now let me ask you this. When was the last time you sat in silence, not scrolling, not talking, not distracting yourself, but just thinking? Not overthinking. Reflecting. There's a difference. Overthinking paralyzes. Reflection clarifies. Overthinking loops in circles. Reflection moves in depth. See, the modern world is noisy. You wake up to notifications. You spend your day reacting, and by nightfall, you're exhausted. Not just physically, but mentally scattered. You go to bed, but your mind doesn't rest. That's because there's no pause, no check-in, no reset. Reflection is how the Stoic resets the soul. It's not about judging yourself. It's about becoming familiar with your patterns, noticing where you acted from fear instead of strength, where you avoided discomfort instead of growing through it, where you spoke out of ego instead of truth. That awareness, it's not criticism, it's a mirror. And with that mirror, something incredible happens. You stop being a stranger to yourself. You stop fearing your mistakes. You start learning from them. Marcus didn't reflect because he was perfect. He reflected because he wasn't, and he knew that. He wrote to remind himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That kind of clarity doesn't come from reading more books. It comes from looking inward day after day. So tonight, try it. Before bed, turn off the screen. Sit with a pen. Ask yourself, what am I proud of today? Where did I act out of alignment? What kind of man do I want to be tomorrow? Because reflection is not just for the wise. It's how we become wise. Part 7. Bringing the unconscious to light. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. Most of what's running your life is invisible, not unseen by the world, unseen by you. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what we do. We repeat patterns in relationships. We sabotage opportunities. We lash out, then regret it again. We tell ourselves, this is just who I am. But is it, or is it the work of old wounds, silent beliefs, and childhood scripts quietly playing out beneath the surface? The Stoics had a name for this too. They called it know thyself. It wasn't just poetic advice, it was survival. Because if you don't understand yourself, you will live as a puppet of forces you cannot name. Marcus Aurelius every evening sat with his thoughts not to complain, but to examine. Why did that make me angry? What desire pulled me off course? Was that fear disguised as logic? See, what both Jung and the Stoics are pointing to is this. The path to freedom is not outside of you. It's not in a new job, a better partner, a change of city. It begins within, by bringing light to the shadows. You cannot change what you refuse to look at, and you cannot heal what you deny is hurting. So let me ask you, when was the last time you paused and listened, not to your thoughts, but to the emotional currents beneath them? That little voice that whispers, you're not enough. You'll be abandoned. You always mess things up. You don't need to fight it. You need to see it. That's the beginning of power. Not the loud external kind, but the quiet rooted strength that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you are not. The Stoic doesn't strive to be perfect, he strives to be aware. Because in awareness, there's choice. In choice, there's freedom. And in freedom, there's dignity. So tonight, don't just journal what happened. Ask yourself why it stirred you. Trace the thread, name the emotion, and slowly you'll find that what once controlled you now informs you. That is how a man begins to lead himself. Part 8. Action is the cure. There comes a moment when thinking is no longer enough. You've journaled, you've reflected, you've dissected every thought, every emotion, and still, something feels stuck. That's when the Stoics remind us of a forgotten truth. Healing doesn't happen in theory. It happens in motion. You can't overthink your way out of despair. You have to act your way through it. Marcus Aurelius, writing during the most uncertain days of his reign, War's Plagues Betrayal, didn't say, wait until you feel better. He said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That's the difference between mere philosophy and Stoicism. Stoicism is not a mental escape hatch. It's a compass pointing you toward action, no matter how small. When your mind spirals into fear, take the next right step. When you doubt yourself, serve someone else. When you feel lost, return to the virtues of courage. Do what scares you. Say what must be said. Temperance. Resist the easy escape. Hold the line. Wisdom. Ask yourself, is this true? Is it useful justice? Act with fairness, even when it's inconvenient. See, despair thrives in passivity. The longer you sit still, the louder the doubts become. But when you move, the fog begins to clear. You feel your strength return, not because your circumstances have changed, but because you changed your relationship to them. That's the Stoic way. Less talk, more walk, less waiting, more doing, less hoping, more becoming. I've seen men stuck in a cycle of overthinking for years, paralyzed by the belief that they need more clarity before they can act. But clarity doesn't precede movement, it follows it. So if you're in the valley today, remember this. You don't need to see the whole mountain. You only need to take the next step calmly, clearly, and with courage. Because every noble life ever lived was built not in thought, but in action. Part 9. Change the narrative. Change your life. Let me ask you something. When you look in the mirror, do you see a man burdened by his past, or a man writing a new chapter? Because here's the truth most people never hear. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who writes them. The stories we tell ourselves day after day, they never choose me. I always mess things up. I'm just not that kind of person. These aren't facts. They're scripts. Old scripts. Scripts you didn't even write consciously. Many were inherited, planted, absorbed. But you've been playing them so long, they feel like truth. Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet of his own mind, gave us a reminder as sharp as it is liberating. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your inner life is like a white tunic. Every thought, especially the ones you repeat, is a drop of dye. And over time, that becomes your tone, your attitude, your identity. So the question is this: what color are you soaking your soul in? Are your thoughts laced with regret, fear, jealousy, self-pity, or are they anchored in responsibility, clarity, and strength? Here's the empowering part. You don't need to fight every thought that passes through your head. You just need to stop identifying with the ones that destroy you and start feeding the ones that rebuild you. Reframing doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means stepping back, getting honest, and choosing a perspective that aligns with your values, not your fears. Let's say you failed at something recently. The untrained mind says, "I'm a failure." But the Stoic mind says, this is data. This is a test. What can I learn here? Same event, different story. And that, different story. It changes everything. You start to walk taller. You show up with more intention. You stop waiting for permission to live with dignity. I've coached men in their 40s, 50s, even 60s, who lived half their lives carrying a narrative someone else wrote for them. And the moment they rewrote the story, everything changed. Not instantly, not magically, but fundamentally. Because here's the Stoic secret. He who commands the story commands the man. That's why daily reflection matters. That's why journaling isn't just self-help, it's strategy. You are inspecting your narrative for cracks and choosing better words. So if the voice in your head has been harsh, if the story you've been living feels stale or small, I have just one invitation for you. You pick up the pen, change the page, write a narrative worthy of the man you're becoming. Before we close, let's step back and look at the landscape we've just walked through together. We began with fear, the quiet architect of negative thinking. We uncovered how self-talk becomes self-sabotage, how distorted thoughts aren't facts, and how our environments silently shape the way we see the world. We challenged the trap of comparison, discovered the power of daily reflection, and dared to bring the unconscious into the light. Then we reclaimed our agency through action, through virtue, through reframing the stories we've long believed. And all of this leads to one unshakable Stoic truth. You are not a prisoner of your mind. You are its governor. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. These men didn't write their wisdom for academics. They wrote it for warriors of the soul, for people like you and me, who are trying each day to live with more strength, more clarity, more peace. And the path they offer isn't easy, but it's freeing. It asks us to own our thoughts, to lead our emotions, and to act not as victims of circumstance, but as authors of meaning. So here's the final call. Don't just watch this video and move on. Pause, reflect, act. Pick one insight from today and practice it. Journal it. Live it. And if this message resonates with something deep inside you, if you felt a moment of stillness or strength or truth, then this is your place. Stoic Outlook isn't just a channel. It's a home for those who seek more than noise. It's for those who want depth discipline and a life guided by timeless virtue. So before you go, subscribe to the channel so you never miss another step on this journey. Like this video if it spoke to you. Share it with someone who needs this clarity. And drop a comment below. Tell me what part hit you the hardest or what you're working through right now. Let's build a community where thoughtfulness and strength are honored. The mind is a battlefield, but with Stoic wisdom, it becomes a garden. Stay steady, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next video. 'Cause the story you live is the one you keep telling.